program of AICT, AFLAP, and the objective of this program is to generate the questions for the engineering students and the faculties of level 4 and 5. All are requested to please submit the minimum 10 questions on each session. You may also submit the more questions. So if the limit is exhausted of 10 questions, then you may resubmit the form. But it is necessary for all of you and even necessary for the generation of the certificate. I have given the sample of the certificate in the group. There is one minor correction regarding the workshop and the faculty development program terminology. Today, Colonel B. Venkat, Director FDC AICT, and Director General Construction Industry Development Council, Dr. P.R. Farooqar, will join this session at 4 p.m. You may have interaction with Colonel Venkat and DG Sir at 4 p.m. And I am very privileged to introduce our expert, today's expert, Dr. Professor Niranjan Farooqar. He is Director General of Indian Society for Trenchless Technology. Basically, he is very well-known figure in academia and in industry also. I am privileged to share that he is one of the pioneer of the trenchless surface technology and construction in our country. As all of you are aware about him, but I just want to share that he is a board member of several institutions and professional bodies, and even he is invited, nominated member of several consultative committees like Bureau of Indian Standards and so on. So, sir, without going in very detail, I will share the brief CV of Professor Niranjan Farooqar in group. I invite Professor Dr. Niranjan Farooqar to take the session, sir. Now, sir, please take the session, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sir. And I'm honored to be with you. Second time, we spoke, I think, last week about subsurface construction. And I made a proposition to all of you. Today also, I have a habit. So today also, I'll be making a proposition. So while you are framing your questions, you can sort of look at the possibilities, how you can go about it. Environmentally speaking, waste management is one of the major issues that most of the engineers, directly or indirectly, are involved. Whether you are designing something, whether you are constructing something, whether you are commissioning something, whether you are decommissioning something, at any stage, waste management is a primary issue which all of us have to address. What we would be talking is how do we manage that. Many of these things, or basically the waste management philosophy, would be already with all of you. My intent is to bring it up, bring it to the real time effort or real time business, so that we can put that to use, bring our students to some kind of employable level, and at the same time protect our environment or our cities. So let me share the presentation first. I should go on a window or an entire screen, Mr. Ji? I should go on a window.
Entire screen कर लीजिए सर.
Entire screen करें?
जी
Cancel.
सर.
Entire screen. Okay.
सर स्क्रीन पर पीपीटी ले लीजिए पहले, ओपन कर लीजिए.
जी. ये तो चैलेंज है आज, उस दिन तो बड़े आराम से हो गया था।
सर दोनों ऑप्शन से कर सकते हैं,
हाँ
विंडो ऑप्शन से भी कर सकते हैं।
हाँ, आई थिंक विंडो ऑप्शन बेटर, क्योंकि इसमें हो क्या रहा है, जब मैं एंटायर स्क्रीन सिलेक्ट कर रहा हूँ
हाँ
तो
तो
वो सिर्फ यही दिखा रहा है।
विंडो
Yes.
विंडो से कर लीजिए सर।
दिस इज बेटर, आ गया। चलिए, मैं पीपीटी रन नहीं करूंगा, मैं स्क्रीन दिखाता जाऊंगा, क्योंकि लास्ट टाइम भी ये हुआ था तो स्क्रीन नहीं चल रही थी। ऑलराइट, सो दिस इज वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट फैकल्टी डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम अंडर ASLAP, and I'm Dr. Niranjan Swarup, Director HE, CIDC, Construction Industry Development Council. I've structured this into 8 portions or 8 parts. The background, introduction to waste management, solid waste, hazardous waste, waste management systems in India, engineering the waste management, academia role in capacity creation, and this is what my proposal would be, and then finally concluding remarks. So let's begin with the background. Let's define the terms waste. Waste is any substance which is discarded after primary use, created as a byproduct of any process, but is worthless or defective and of no use. So any of this material or any of the items with this characteristics is, technically speaking, waste. Examples include municipal solid waste, that is household trash, refuse, hazardous waste, wastewater such as sewage, which contains bodily waste, feces and urine, and surface runoff, radioactive waste, and others. As per UNEP, the definition is waste are substances or objects which are disposed of or are intended to be disposed of or are required to be disposed of by the provisions of the national law. So basically, if something is defined as a waste, it is supposed to be disposed of or it has to be managed. That is what the UNEP says. There are many different organizations across the globe, OECD, UNDP, many more. They define what is waste and they have their own legal sanctity, same as in India, where we also have this various departments or various units which define the waste. Or typically, if I say a generic waste could be agricultural, animal byproducts, biodegradable waste, biomedical waste, bulky waste, business waste. This is a generic list which would come to you with the presentation. There's a continued list of these wastes, and there could be many more depending on what kind of situation you are looking at. Now, what is the impact of waste is basically the cost of waste. There are basically 4 costs of waste. First is environmental cost, which is inappropriately managed waste can attract rodents and insects, which can harbor gastrointestinal parasites, yellow fever worms, the plague, and other conditions for humans, and exposure to hazardous waste, particularly when they are burnt, can cause various other diseases, including cancers. If you recall the plague in Surat, it was resultant or it came about because of the rodents or the mice which were moving around. The first case of plague which was recorded in London again was due to plague only, due to environmental impact of those wastes. So that is the first cost anybody and everybody pays for the waste. The second cost is that is called social cost, and that is the waste management is a significant environmental justice issue. Many of the environmental burdens and costs cited above are more often borne by the marginalized groups such as racial minorities, women, and residents of developing nations. We have a ship-breaking unit at Alang in Gujarat. This particular place is the host of the industry where the out of service vessels, ships, or the marine equipment are brought and they are broken down. When they are brought here, along with them, the disease, the viruses, all those things come in. At Alam, there have been instances of uh, explosives coming in. There have been instances of many negative things coming in, and all those are basically transferred to marginalized people. So they are basically paying the social cost, which is the second cost of the waste. Third and fourth costs are economic cost. The economic cost of managing the waste are very high and are often paid for by the municipal governments. Money can often be saved with more efficiently designed collection routes, modifying vehicles, and with public education. Then finally comes the cost to communities. People in developing countries suffer from contaminated water and landfills caused by unlawful government policies that allow first world countries and companies to transport their trash to their homes and oftentimes near bodies of water. This is a major issues dogging even the Indian environment, and of late the government has become aware, or rather they have started prohibiting waste ingress inside India, but still there are many things which are happening. So these are the four type of costs which are associated with waste, and as an engineer or as a technocrat, we need to see to it that we minimize them as best as possible. So that basically presents the background of the presentation. Then comes the introduction to waste management. So let's talk about waste management. Waste management is the set of activities associated with the disposition of waste products after they have been generated, as well as actions to minimize the production of waste. What we do is we dispose of the existing waste and we see to it that the further waste generation is stopped. These two set of activities fall under the premise of waste management. This may include storage, treatment, and disposal. The process of waste management involves treating solids and liquid waste. During, during the treatment, it also offers a variety of solutions for recycling items that are not categorized as trash. Wherever you can retrieve some material from the waste that can be recycled, and then it is not a waste. All that processes are handled under waste management. Water sanitation and hygiene, that is WASH. This is a term coined under our Swachh Bharat mission, directly impact human health and have far-reaching consequences when ignored. India is one of the latest developing economies, but when it comes to wash indicators, it continues to lag behind. With a population of over 1.2 billion, there is a mounting and urgent need to address the sanitation. Solid and liquid waste management, that is SLWM, is one of the key components of Swachh Bharat mission, launched with the objective of bringing improvement in cleanliness, hygiene, and general quality of life in rural areas. So all this put together puts an effort for enhancing the quality of life and managing the waste disposal. My proposition to all of you would be to work in this direction, have programs or projects initiated in your region, and based on that, educate your people and practically benefit the whole system. Now, if I qualify, we just gave you a broad list of waste in the first section. If we classify them, there could be different modes in which you can classify those. There could be different types of waste such as domestic, factory waste, waste from oil factory, e-waste, construction waste, agricultural waste, food processing waste, biomedical waste, nuclear waste, slaughterhouse waste, etc. We can classify them as follows. That is solid waste, which would be vegetable, kitchen and household waste. E-waste, like discarded electronic devices such as computer, TV, music system, etc. Liquid waste, which is water used for different industries, tanneries, distilleries, thermal power plants. There are locations on the banks of several rivers where tanneries and other polluting industries are situated, and all of them are discharging fluid in the river. that basically spoils the whole ecosystem of the river and the region. Plastic waste like plastic bags, bottles, buckets, etc. Metal waste like unused metal sheet, metal scraps. Nuclear waste like unused material from nuclear power plants. So these could be some generic grouping of the waste, and you need this grouping because that way you will be able to identify what to do and where to go. Further, we can group all these type of waste into two parts: wet waste, which is biodegradable, and dry waste, which is non-biodegradable. These are the processes adopted or handled in India because we are talking about two type of waste as on date. We need to graduate or we need to go above from this. When we talk about wet waste, which is kitchen waste including food, food waste of all kinds, cooked and uncooked, including eggshells and bones, flower and fruit waste including juice peels and house plant waste, garden sweeping or yard waste consisting of green dry leaves, sanitary waste, green waste from vegetable and fruit vendors' shops, waste from food and tea stall and shops, etc. All these are biodegradable. That means if we put them inside a pit, we can compost them and create some kind of fertilizer out of them. Then comes non-biodegradable. That would be paper and plastic, all kinds, cardboard and cartons, containers of all kinds, excluding those containing hazardous materials, packaging of all kinds, glass of all kinds, metal of all kinds, rags, rubber, house sweeping dust, ashes, foils, wrappings, pouches, sachets, and tetra packs, discarded electronic items from office colonies, that is cassettes, computers, diskettes, printer cartridges, and electronic parts, discarded clothing, furniture, and equipment. All these are non-biodegradable. They would never, I mean, they would generally not degrade. All you do is, all you can do is incinerate them possibly, but then that is also not a solution. Now, what do you do? Do you dispose or do you manage your waste? There are common practices to dispose waste from ordinary people. If you look around in Delhi, there are four possible mounds of solid waste, MSW, municipal solid waste, which have taken shape at, sorry, three mounds, and they've taken place at three locations: Ghazipur, Tughlakabad, and what we call North Delhi waste disposal ground. And all of them are simply growing. Disposal of waste is becoming a serious and vexing problem for any human habitation all over the world, not only in India, everywhere. Disposing solid waste out of sight and out of mind does not solve the problem, but indirectly increases the same manifold, and at a certain point it goes beyond the control of everybody. The North Delhi disposal ground, what we are talking, or let's say Ghazipur disposal ground, what we are talking. Ghazipur already has had accident where the mount or the heap of the solid waste collapsed and people got trapped under it. In the North Delhi, the fire took place and the whole area was completely submerged with the smog and fumes, like the uh, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide gases coming out of those mounds. The consequences of this practice, such as health hazards, pollution of soil, water, air, and food, unpleasant surroundings, loss of precious resources that could be obtained from the solid waste, etc., are well known. That is why it is essential to focus on the proper management of waste all over the world. Waste management has become the subject of concern globally and nationally. As an engineer, whichever branch we are in, we need to see to it that we can contribute to this particular requirement, the global requirement. Now, how do we move ahead? Let's identify the various waste. First, let's talk about the solid waste, which is coming out of many places. In rural areas, examples of solid waste include water from kitchen, garden, cattle sheds, agriculture, and materials such as metal, paper, plastic, clothes, and so on. They are organic and inorganic material with no remaining economic value to the owner, owner produced by homes, commercial, and industrial establishments. Many household waste in rural areas is organic with little inorganic material and is non-toxic. Because of environmental friendliness, composting is a highly suitable method of waste management in rural areas, but not in urban areas. In urban areas, what we are producing is a substantial amount of that is non-biodegradable. Now, the basic principle of solid waste management goes with 4 R's. I believe you must have heard about these. These are refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. That is, do not buy anything which we do not really need. Reduce the amount of garbage generated. Alter our lifestyle so that minimum garbage is generated. Reuse everything to its maximum after properly cleaning it. Make secondary use of different articles. Recycle. Keep things which can be recycled to be given to rag pickers or waste pickers, kabadiwalas. Convert the recyclable garbage into manures and other useful products. Now, this was the approach few years back. The current approach is 7 R's. Rethink, refuse, reduce, repurpose, reuse, recycle, and finally rot. That is, rethink. Do you really want to buy a new one? Can you have or can you use something which can be second-hand vehicle, second-hand product? Do you refuse? Can you refuse? Can you reduce the usage? Can you repurpose it? You repurpose the item. Can you reuse it? Can you recycle it? And finally, if nothing works out, let it rot. Let it get spoiled. So if that would be approach, you would not be sending material for the solid waste management. But then if you send, then what? Then there are basically further steps which which should be seen, that is segregation at the source, different treatments for different type of solid waste, treatment at nearest possible point. All these go in as a assisting thought process behind waste management. You store the organic and biodegradable and inorganic and non-biodegradable solid waste in different bins, recycle of all the components and minimum with minimum labor and cost. One must apply techniques which are suitable to the given type of garbage. For example, techniques suitable for general market waste may not be suitable for slaughterhouse waste. Then comes the solid waste should be treated in as decentralized manner as possible. The garbage generated should be treated preferably at the site of generation, that is every house, but at least treat them closest to the source of generation so that the transport cost and transport wastage does not occur. So that touches the solid waste management. I'm just giving you the introduction because these things need to be, I mean, there are many prescribed books, there are many inputs, they will help you. I'm trying to awaken your ideas so that we can actually go for the proposal where we are talking. The second set is hazardous waste. Now, hazardous waste means it is a waste that has substantial or potential threats to public health or the environment. Characteristics: hazardous waste are materials that are known or tested to exhibit one or more of the following hazardous traits. Ignitability, that is flash point less than 60 degrees centigrade. Anything happens and it can burn up. Reactivity, unstable material capable of releasing gases on reaction with water. The moment you put some water, some gases start coming out and that may be harmful or dangerous for anybody. Corrosivity, which has extreme pH values, which is less than or equal to 2 pH or more than or equal to 12.5 pH. Such material will immediately react with the materials, acidic or basic, whatever material would be, and would go and react with other materials and damage them. Toxicity, degree to which the waste substances can damage an organism. So these are the 4 characteristics of hazardous waste. If they are present, that basically means it is a hazardous one. And hazardous one can be liquids, solids, gases, sludges, discarded commercial products like cleaning fluids, pesticides, or byproducts of manufacturing processes, acids flowing, or remove paints, pigments, anything and everything which can react with the human life or human body or organism. The management of hazardous waste is a process which includes the collection, recycling, treatment, transportation, disposal, and monitoring of waste disposal sites. In the current scenario of developing countries, hazardous waste are most often disposed directly into the environment, posing health and environmental risks. And this is unfortunately the situation. If you see the river in Yamuna in Delhi, we have froth coming out. There are lakes in Bangalore where froth is coming out, white color froth. Now all that froth is basically some kind of hazardous material which has been deposited there and it's reacting and coming out. So it is dangerous and we need to contain that. As technocrats, as engineers, it is our business to see to it that this stops. This would help the nation, this would help the student, this would help us as well. What are the categories of hazardous waste? These are the radioactive substances, chemicals, biomedical waste, flammable waste, explosives. All these or any of these could be hazardous to the environment, to the mankind, to the organism or whatever. Hazardous waste management stands principally such wastes are either buried or incinerated. Either the process could lead to further pollution. You burn it, you'll be creating some kind of fumes or some kind of gases, which again would be polluting or which could be dangerous or harmful to people. Hazardous waste management process therefore should address handling of hazardous waste, transport of hazardous waste, and then finally disposal. Now disposals could be secure landfill, it could be deep well disposal, or it could be bedrock disposal where you identify caverns and those caverns are filled so that those hazardous waste material does not come out and lies there as an inert body. The moment somebody exposes it, it again can react. Another hazardous part would be the liquid waste. Solid waste are something which would not travel on their own, but liquid can percolate, can drain off, do many things. Liquid waste can be defined as any waste material that passes the definition of liquids. Some of the common liquid waste are wastewater, fat, oil and grease, that is FOG, used oil, liquids, solids, gases and sludges, and hazardous household liquids. These liquids are hazardous or potentially harmful to human health or the environment. They can also be discarded commercial products classified as liquid industrial waste such as cleaning fluids or pesticides or the byproducts of manufacturing processes. When water is used once and it's no longer fit for human consumption or for any other use, it is considered to be liquid waste. And basically wastewater can be subcategorized as industrial and domestic, which is industrial wastewater generated by manufacturing processes and difficult to treat. Domestic wastewater includes water discharged from homes, commercial complexes, hotels, and educational institutes. I would be talking about two case studies, and one pertains to the industrial wastewater, and then I would be able to put my point in a better manner. So coming to the waste management system in India, what is actually happening, as per our understanding, there could be some locations or some cities where they may be doing it better, but generally this is the status or situation. Waste management market comprises of four segments: municipal waste, industrial waste, biomedical waste, and electronic waste market. So these are the four segments of the market which are the waste management system in India. All these four types of waste are governed by different laws and policies as is the nature of the waste. In India, waste management practice depends on the following, that is actual waste generation, primary storage, primary collection, secondary collection and transportation, recycling activities, and treatment and disposal. So this defines how your waste management is being administered and controlled in India. In India, ULBs play, that is urban local bodies play very important role in waste management in each city, along with the public health department. Municipal corporation is responsible for the management of municipal solid waste generated in the city among its other duties. The public health department is responsible for sanitation, street cleansing, epidemic control, and food adulteration. The moment you have two different agencies doing the same thing, the same moment nobody does anything. It simply goes down, and that is what unfortunately is the situation. There is a clear and strong hierarchy of posts in the municipal corporation, and this basically leads to more complications and more challenges. Now, when we talk about the waste collection, primarily by the city municipality, no gradation of waste product, that is biodegradable, glasses, polybags, paper, shells, etc. Dump these waste in the city outskirts. They simply collect from your places, go and dump it somewhere. Local ratiwala, kawadiwala, rag pickers will go, collect small iron pieces by magnets, collect glass bottles, collect paper for recycling. So they will again risk their own lives by getting into that solid waste disposal areas. So this is unfortunately the situation in most of the places where we are disposing of the solid waste. Waste management initiatives in India, which are public sector, this comprises of local authority and local public department at city level. Private formal sector, this constitutes large and small registered enterprises doing collection, transportation, treatment and disposal and recycling. There are companies or organizations which are handling, you are aware of that. Private information sector, informal sector, this constitutes a small scale, unrecognized private sector and comprises of waste pickers, dump pickers, itinerant waste buyers, traders and non-registered and small-scale enterprises which would go from location to location, locality to locality, collect the waste and dispose it off after taking out the material which is of their interest. Community representatives in the form of NGOs like RWAs, Resident Welfare Associations, they would be creating their own waste collection system and they would be simply again taking out the garbage and dumping it in the same solid waste system. The challenges what India faces. The key issues and challenges include lack of collection and segregation at source, scarcity of land, dumping of e-waste, lack of awareness. Anything and everything which is discarded is thrown in the same waste bin and the same waste bins material are taken to the same disposal ground. So everything comes at the same location. Segregation is not happening. Simple dumping of mixed waste is the practice followed practically everywhere and especially in the developing countries as they cannot mobilize financial resources for applying expensive technology propounded by developed countries. There are nations like Dubai which have the waste collection and compression or incineration centers. You go to Dubai, you'll find those systems. They have different doors and different deposition windows where you put in the material. It will be sucked. Let's say you are going with clothes. There will be a dedicated window for clothes. So you put the clothes therein. It will be sucked in, and whatever treatment which has to be done to that waste will be done in that section. The organic waste will go somewhere else. So on and so forth. In India, we do not have that system, and that is very difficult to create. But then, as an engineer, we need to find solutions which could be cost effective. And I would really love to know or love to have my team members creating such kind of systems which are cost effective as well as managing and maintaining the waste. In India, the new Municipal Solid Waste Management Rules 2000, which came into effect from January 2004, fail even to manage waste in a cyclic process. Waste management still is a linear system of collection and disposal, creating health and environmental hazards. So this is what, or these are what are the challenges in India, and we have to see to it or find solutions for them. Now, coming engineering the waste management. What I mean to say is, I engineer the management of waste process for an integrated waste management program. Accurate and reliable data on waste composition and quantity are essential. If I'm trying to do waste management and if I'm trying to apply the engineering principle, first of all, I should get the data about the waste or the information on the waste. Such data will encourage well organized and smoothly functioning recycling programs. It would foster the optimal design and operation of materials recovery facility and municipal incinerators, and ultimately reduce the amount of waste generated, thus holding down the total waste management cost. So if as an engineer, as a technocrat, our team is able to define systems for, let's say, a city or area in Kalyan, let's say city or area at Tirupati, or maybe in Mumbai, maybe in Delhi, maybe in Kolkata or any place. If we are able to define some kind of systems and that is cost effective and it produces results and reduces the cost of waste management, it would be fantastic. Moreover, if we are able to do that, obviously we will not be doing it alone. We will be doing it with our students. So obviously they would learn how to go about it, and that is what is going to be my proposal. Knowledge of the chemical composition of municipal solid waste, that is MSW, will guide engineers and scientists of its utility as a fuel. Let's say if I have a combustible material, I can use it to generate some kind of power. There have been incinerators installed in cities like Delhi, which were established with a concept of using those incinerators, using that heat to generate power and supply it to the consumers. But unfortunately, because the materials have been not uniformly like segregated at the source, the material which reached the incinerators could not generate that kind of power because the calorific value was too low. It will also help, like if we are doing engineering, then it will also help to predict the makeup of gaseous emissions after incineration, as well as of possible hazardous substances occurring in the ash. Today, what we are having in Delhi is AQI of maybe 400 to 800. At the peak, it was maybe about 800 or 900 ppm. The 900 ppm is basically hazardous or cancerous. So, if we are able to find out what we are really burning, and if we are able to contain that particular gas or that particular produce, we would be able to enhance the environment. Mind it, if the gas AQI or rather air AQI is say 800, the quantum or the number of people falling sick because of the chest ailments is going to be multiplying. And who pays for that? For individual sick person, it could be the family person, but ultimately it is the cost to the nation. It is the cost to the exchequer or state. We need to prevent that. Waste composition will provide information on the utility of the material for composting or for conversion to biogas fuel. In addition, if the municipal solid waste is disposed of in landfills, knowledge of the chemical composition will help in predicting the leachate composition and required treatment options. Unfortunately, if you are simply dumping your uh, municipal solid waste at a dump yard without realizing that leachate will be created, that leachate will basically percolate in the ground and is going to pollute everything below it. So you need to have the treatment possibility and treatment system. And to know that, you need to have the data. Data on physical properties of MSW help forecast modes of transport, processing requirements, combustion characteristics, and rough prediction of landfill lifetime. So basically, if I'm able to run the analysis or know what is the composition of waste, its chemical and physical properties, I would be able to design systems by which I can contain the whole expenses or whole investment to the lowest possible value. How do I know that? I would know that by sampling. And the protocols are, there are 4 protocols. First is direct sampling. I would sample from the like if there is a small area generating the waste, I can sample it from the originator of the waste. I can work out the material flows. That is another approach in determining the waste composition is to assess the material flows. This method is useful for estimating waste stream composition and trends in regional basis. Surveys, I can give questionnaires to people who are generating these waste and understand the basic requirement that this is what is the composition of the material or this item for the waste throwing away. And based on that, we can go for planning and then finally multiplier for the prediction quantities, which is waste generation multipliers are used to estimating the waste quantities from the sources in a particular region. These multipliers express the relationship between the amount of waste produced and the identifier parameter, like household or specific industry. Let's say if you have 1,000 houses and you are able to find out the properties of a set of houses, say 2%, 5% houses, you can work out the multiplier and find out the quantities of waste accordingly. So all these go into municipal solid waste sampling protocols. I believe you will find more details or more information about these systems in your reference manuals, or you can search it out, ask questions, there could be answers coming in. Now, when I do the engineering, what is going to be deliverable to me? Municipal solid waste collection process and protocols can be frozen. Solid waste recycling opportunities can be generated. Material recovery facilities planning, design, and development is done. MSW composting process and protocols can be identified. MSW incineration process and protocols can be identified. Sanitary landfill system planning and implementations can be done. All these are deliverables if we do our data analysis properly and come up with the result. If we are able to do that and provide this information or these details to the ULB, urban local body, when it applies that, obviously is going to come up with some solutions. And how do we work it out? There are literature reviews, there are case stories, case studies, all those are available. We go through them and find out the solutions. Now, what would be the criteria for selecting any technology? To achieve financial sustainability, socio-economic and environmental goals in the field of waste management, there is a need of systematically analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the community as well as municipal corporation, based on which an effective waste management system can be evolved with the participation of various stakeholders in India. The following criteria could assist in selecting the proper technology. The first one is availability of space near houses and housing patterns, geophysical conditions of the village, including topography, soil structure, groundwater conditions, sources and pattern of water supply, which is individual or public, availability of common space in and around the settlements, economic status and human resource availability with the residents. So if I rate these or we take these in consideration, we could be able to find out the appropriate technology of waste management. Now, coming to the case study, I'll be talking about two case studies which will explain or which will bring some light to what I am trying to convey to you. First is management of drilling fluids in HDD. Horizontal directional drilling, as we call that, is a process in which you are having a telescopic drill which rotates and creates a cavity in the ground. To create that cavity, you have to remove the soil from the hole of the cavity created, and that removal of the soil is done through use of the bentonite. The HDD, and that bentonite is basically a water-based drilling process where you are using the barite or bentonite or any kind of clay material mixed in water, and you pump that fluid inside. It provides certain viscosity in the fluid, and that viscosity in turn allows the cutting to fall and float on that, because they will be lighter than this particular mix of bentonite, and when it floats, it comes back towards the machine or towards the entry point. And when it comes back, you can simply take out those solids and recirculate the whole process. So water-based drilling fluids utilize water as a liquid solute that is used to transport commercial solids, which is bentonite, barite, any material which can kind of give a viscosity and give a mass to the mass to the fluid. And then drilled solids, the solid which are excavated and which fall in your pit. This fluid continuously circulate. This fluid is continuously circulated between the pump, the mud pump, and the drill head where the cutting is happening. When this pump is sending the fluid and the soil which is cut there or rock which is broken there or cut there, it falls in that fluid and floats back because more fluid is coming in. And with each circulation, the solid content continues increasing going to the drilling and cutting activities. Every time the cutting, something is falling. So what do? You have that cutting actually condensating within that tunnel which you are creating. Such additional solid needs to be removed at each cycle of circulation. If you go on removing that and you keep your fluid at the specific consistency as it was in the beginning, you will be able to remove more solids out of it. If you don't do it, the proper design of the composition of fluid needs to be done. If you don't do it, what would happen? The penetration of the drill rod, the drill head which is going inside, its rate of penetration will go down. The bit and the beamer will be having a bad life or will spoil faster. The mud cost will go up because every time the mud is mixing. Increased wear in the mud pump, mud motor and the surface equipment. Increased cleanup and haul-off cost. To implement such design, solid control is deployed. Now, what is solid control? Solid control comprises of a system of equipment which basically shakes it, which basically screen vibrates, and because the vibration of screen, solid material fall down. There are desander. When you have sands, the sand will be taken in a cyclone, and that cyclone will basically remove it. There are desilter, where the silt will be removed. There are centrifuge which rotates, and by rotation, the heavier particles will go on the outer surface, and the fluid will be drained off from the middle. Or chemically enhanced centrifuge, which would basically help in coagulate the excavated material, which could also be in a broken position, and a broken position material might not leave the centrifuge. So what you do is you put certain chemicals which basically help in coagulation of the excavated material, and once it coagulates, it goes on and settles on the external walls. The fluid which comes down is recirculated, and using this system, the drilled solids are separated from the circulating fluid. Now comes the basic question or basic point, and that is, what happens to the bentonite? The bentonite, after a certain period of time, is mixed with, even with whatever best processes you do, it will be mixed with the excavated solids, and at some point of time, its viscosity will become almost negligible, and then it will stop or it will fail coming, like bringing your solid material. Then what do? Let's say if you are drilling a long drill, maybe 2 kilometers long. Right now, as I told you in my last lecture, there has been a project in Northeast where there is a 4-kilometer long drill happening in one shot, or like one long drill. Imagine how much soil is going to come out. What is going to happen? Your bentonite would be spent after some time. Then what? If you throw it away in the river, the bentonite would be having clay which will go and fill the gulls of the fish, which will go and cover the organic material in the river, and that will basically kill the organic material there. It would be dangerous for everybody or everything there. So managing that kind of waste is something which becomes quite challenging. And I don't know whether I have any faculty members coming from Northeast. If there are any, they would be going to see this kind of mud coming out, and that needs to be disposed of properly so that it does not go and spoil anything. The best way to dispose of that particular excavated material would be to spread it in the farms. If you spread it in the farms, the organisms will basically break it down and again the soil will be saved. But the moment you put it in any buried body, it will be basically spoiling it. But that is what is the challenge, or that is what needs to be seen. As a faculty member, as an engineer, as a technocrat, we need to keep our eyes open and see if such kind of work is happening around us, and we need to see to it that they don't spoil the environment. Now let's go to the case study 2. This is a case study of a LPG import terminal constructed in Haldia recently. This plant, for your information, LPG is liquefied petroleum gas, and basically it comprises of two gases, butane and propane. Butane and propane are basically mixed to make a composite gas, and that gas is mixed with, like, they are odorless and colorless gases. So therefore, the mix also is odorless and colorless. So in that you mix special gases which provide some kind of essence. If you have used LPG gases at your home, you would remember or recall a smell coming from that gas when you are connecting it or when you are starting your burner. That particular smell is basically because of that essence. Now, this particular process is like the whole plant was constructed. It's a 1 million metric per MMTA, or 1 MMTPA. That is 1 million metric ton per annum. What we call LPG import terminal. Now, there is a jetty. On that jetty, there are unloading arms. They would go inside the ship and suck out, or rather receive the gas. One gas will be coming at minus 40 degree temperature. Another gas will come at minus 10 degree temperature. They would be brought by pipe to this plant, which was about 7.5 kilometers away from the jetty. So they laid pipelines. Part of it about 4.5 kilometers were above ground pipelines, and then 2.5 kilometers were 5 kilometers were above ground, and 2.5 kilometers were below the ground. So now when these gases come, they will be stored in two separate tanks for propane and butane, and then whenever required, the gases would be brought to the processing unit and mixed it. Now, in this processing, from minus 40 degree, they have to be brought to some 10 degrees centigrade. To bring it to 10 degrees centigrade, you need to heat it up, and for that heating, you require water. Now, the water available to this plant was at hardness, or at at a dissolved solid level of 2500 ppm. The requirement of this process was about 115 ppm solid. All right. Now, if you are cleaning this kind of water, you would be throwing a substantial amount of water by reverse osmosis process, and that was about 35% of the ingress volume. They were taking in 50 kiloliter capacity reverse osmosis plant for creating this. And since the quality needs to be enhanced from 2500 to 115, the RO process plan is a two-stage. It's operating. So what they would do is they would bring down the hardness to certain level, and then they would re-operate it so that it comes down to the basic level. So the RO process in first stage treats the water to bring it to 165 ppm level. In the second stage, this water is further treated, and the target quality is achieved, which is 115 ppm. Now, all the refuse from the second stage would again send to the first stage, so that it would mix with the whole process, and again the treatment will go on. But in totality, 36% of the inflow containing 3000 ppm, 3000 plus ppm impurities is disposed of. Now the challenge is that Haldia is 70 kilometers away from Bay of Bengal. This fluid was being discharged, or is being discharged in the receiving channels, which would take it to the Bay of Bengal, where it would mix. Yes, even that would not be very healthy, but then you do not have any choice. The bad decision would have been that they threw that water away in the city itself. At least they could put it in the channel, and that channel is taking it to Bay of Bengal, so that at least that area is not getting polluted. You see, these challenges would be there in the plants around your establishments, wherever you are having your colleges, wherever you are having your uh, residences, you would have such kind of issues. Not only plants you have. Let's say you are having a multi-story housing complex, say 5,000 flats housing complex. If a housing complex comprises of 5,000 houses, assuming that each house will contain a house at least 4 persons, or that basically means we are talking about 20,000 inhabitants in that particular housing complex. With 20,000 inhabitants, if you're supplying 70 liters per head per day, you're talking about uh, 14 lakh liter per head per day coming, 14 lakh liters of water coming in. And out of that 14 lakh liter, let's say 35% of the water is RO water discharge. What is going to happen? Everybody will be throwing that water in the drains and it will be spoiling the environment around the city. Now, this is something which needs to be prevented. How do we do it? We take it to some place where it can be disposed of properly. As engineers, you could have the solutions for all these requirements. And that is where the role of the professors, role of the engineers come in, which can be done in isolation, which can be done in collaboration, which can be done on an institutional basis. So that is what my submission or suggestion would be. So what is my suggestion? I'm talking about your role in the capacity creation of this waste management. Engineering institutions are educating learners in various engineering fields. Contents of some of the topics of these teachings could be enhanced to cover waste reduction and containment practices in real time. Various waste management issues could be identified under AirSlab. The questions what we are trying to create could be created towards AirSlab. If you make those questions in that, then there could be solutions found in that, and that could be applied anywhere. Such issues could also be raised and discussed with CIDC. Post-issue identification, MSW hazardous or liquid waste management processes could be planned. It would be specific process suiting your city, suiting your requirement. Awareness campaigns for such processes can be planned. Activities could be initiated by networking with the concerned ULBs. The next opportunity is to network with polluting establishments for correcting the discharge to protect the environment. You have, as I gave you the example of this LPG receiving terminal. Actually, when you're talking about coastal discharges, the primary logic is that you discharge it at a depth, and generally that is about 4 kilometers from the coastline. So what you do is you discharge it at 4 kilometers from the coastline. So by the time it mixes up, it gets verified and the impacts are almost removed. So that is done through through working with the regulatory bodies like CRZ. If you are living near the coastal areas, or the green tribunals if you are living in the cosmopolitans, or any of the environmental agencies. So assistance of regulatory bodies, if any, needs to be obtained, because if they are working with you or they are working with us, we'll be able to provide these solutions. Greenfield projects, as I mentioned about this 5,000 house accommodation, 5,000 house apartment set, could also be evaluated in a network that look here, if you are having a supply of say so much water and we are going to use RO, then what? Why can't we install the water treatment plant at the supply level? Hello? हाँ हाँ, तो आप चाहते हैं मैं रुक जाऊं या मैं अभी चलाता हूँ? आप रोकना चाहते हैं मुझे तो मैं रुक जाता हूँ, मैं ये वाला स्लाइड खत्म करके ये सेक्शन खत्म कर देता हूँ, जरा सा सेक्शन, ठीक है? Okay. For new developments like smart cities, such processes could be developed with smart city SPVs also. So all these are the agencies with whom you can interact and work. Another important aspect of waste management would be of environmental protection of natural habitat that could be ensured through proper engineering of the waste management process. There are instances in many of the hill stations where you have like landslides, accidents, environmental damages, degradation, the roads, the flooding. Those things happen because the proper disposal of the solid waste or other hazardous materials were not done. We need to contain those as well. Creation of minor project for various steps of waste engineering for local areas, industries, smart city, conjunction with the concerned ULBs and agencies. Creation of major projects with sponsorships, grants for advanced level programs and linked trainings. So these are the things which you can do to create the systems. Then induction of students as interns and trainees or research scholars under these projects to educate them on a real-time projects and develop employable professionals at one hand, as well as create solutions or provide solutions to the environmental problems in your areas. I would be beseeching you to please consider doing it. CIDC assistance for conducting such networking is offered to partner institutions. National Register of Indians, that is NRI process, to be put in motion at the partner institution level to maximize the benefit to the students. I would be halting my presentation here because Mr. Mishra tells me that Colonel Venkat and DG has joined the program. So he wants them to speak. So I'm just stopping it here. I'll just continue or conclude it once that is done.
Thanks, sir. In fact, Colonel Venkat and DG sir have very limited time. So,
Yeah.
sorry for inconvenience and interruption
problem.
in your very enlightening presentation, sir. Sir, dear academicians, as there is no any need to introduce Colonel V. Venkat, Director FDC AICT. I am directly inviting him to address with all of you, and we also invite all of you to interact with Colonel V. Venkat. Sir, please, sir.
Thank you, Pravanto Mishra, sir. It's an honor to be coming on this platform, and thank you to CIDC that I get an opportunity to be coming on this particular activity and be speaking to each one of the participants. There's an echo coming somewhere. If in case anyone has kept his mic open, request to just close it. Yeah, thank you. Another thing, small thing that I need to just be telling to the various participants is everything is been happening under the able leadership and mantle of Dr. Swarup sir, who himself happened to be, an industrialist known for his repute and known for his outstanding contribution. So we expect out of this, what is the first of all, why have I come in today? I just thought of addressing and letting each one of you know what is the expectation. What are we seeing? How we see this particular activity unfolding? We see this particular activity unfolding in a manner wherein we are, number one, we are aligning our faculty members to the industrial requirements. Time and again, wherever I have been, whatever concept note that I write, wherever I speak, the one thing which has always come back to haunt us is that there seems to be a lack of integration between the academicians and the industry. Every time this is being spoken. So when every time this is being spoken, AICT has taken initiative, and we are more than thanking CIDC towards this particular activity, that they have come on board to bridge this particular gap. Now this gap can only be bridged if we have our faculty members who are today joining us, who are connected today, and many more who must have been there in the previous sessions, or others who are likely to be joining in due course of time. They take these activities in that seriousness. An opportunity to talk to industry, an opportunity to understand what is required in the industry do not comes that often. Half of the time we are receiving questions. Please recommend an industry. Please recommend whom to talk. So here it is given an opportunity to you to talk to the best. We wish to see our faculty members coming out of these activity which is being done, capable enough to utilize whatever you people have learned into your day-to-day teaching learning practice. Make yourself that much competent that whatever you are teaching, you are in a process to make your students that much capable. Some of you are joining us from the autonomous institutes. Some of you must be university representatives. Please go back, align your curriculum. Some of you who are from affiliated, please take this as a start point to give recommendations to your concerned who you feel are responsible. And why not when these things are happening? We are in an era which is being driven purely by National Education Policy 2020. National Education Policy, one of the biggest mandates happened to be multidisciplinary. Multidisciplinary does not mean only one thing. Multidisciplinary means in academics, you are multidisciplinary to integrate multiple disciplines, to include basic sciences, to include arts, yoga, science, music, dance, whatever you are thinking of. It also implies that you are being practical and realistic by integrating it with the industry also. That is what is called as a holistic education. What is the purpose of education? When our student who graduates is found wanting in the industrial requirements. Now this has a direct implication on one of the very important facets of NEP, which happens to be employment. I have interacted with multiple companies. I have interacted with multiple agencies who come to the institutes for the purposes of employment. On the campus placement, I don't know, whatever we may be calling. There's a terminology, you call it campus placement or whatever. When I interact with them, everybody says that your students are brilliant academically. Each one of them happens to be scoring 90 plus. But when it comes to their hands-on experience, each one of them is found wanting. When it comes to their capability to work in an organized forum under supervision or under leadership, or when they are given a task or for their capability, they are found wanting. And the only thing that they tell is ki because you people never aligned your students to the industrial requirements. So there are multiple things. I can keep rationaling, I can keep reasoning with you people as to why this particular course. I think Dr. Swaroop and his team has already clarified the importance of this course. And it goes without saying that unless and until we make our teachers competent and capable enough by means of, what do you call as capacity building, I can't expect a change in the employment tomorrow all of a sudden. It has to be driven through you people only. You are the one who is going to carry out a change in the times to come at whichever level you are. Whether in your classroom, whether in your department, whether in an institute, university, you name a place, you are the people who are going to be doing it. Utilize this particular time which you are having to your fullest. We would be giving a certificate to everybody. That goes without saying. But none of us are connected here just for the purpose of a certificate. Take a larger purpose. The larger purpose is make yourself wanted in the system. And you can only do that provided you have that little bit of additional knowledge than your counterpart. Otherwise, everybody is earning salary. I'm also very happy. Things are going very smooth. The purpose is to make yourself be an integral part of the system. And should we make you that much capable during a period of this course which is going on, we wish to also ask your assistance and support in generating multiple choice questions. This multiple choice questions has got a very special reason as to why we are asking it. The answer lies in the same statement which I made earlier, that our students are found to be not that capable to get employed straight away. So once we have that issue which is coming in, AICT has come out with another scheme which is called as AICT Parak. That is Students Learning Assessment. It is now going by the name of Parak, in which, taking a cue from what I said just now, we are putting multiple choice questions into this platform, from engineering, from management, applicable to PG, diploma, applicable to MBA students, in having questions of domain specific, having questions of emerging areas, having questions of general knowledge, aptitude, and when we were other day discussing with Swaroop sir, we realized we also need to have certain questions on higher order thinking skills. That is the applicability part. So this is where the origin of this thought process of having a faculty development program with CIDC came. Yes, this is the wonderful thing. Our teachers become competent, our teachers get aligned with industry. And if we can have certain set of multiple choice questions, which we can include in our portal, and then this portal be made open to all. AICT is the portal, we don't charge anything. It's open to all, whether a fellow faculty or a student, for continuous assessment. Keep taking assessment, keep understanding where you stand. And as and when you feel that you require a little bit of improvement, please improve in that specific thing. And it is basically with a single idea that we want to collectively take all of us together. That is what I thought I should be talking to you people, and I don't wish to interfere into the speaker. The speaker was speaking, and I think his talk is something which should be somewhere more appreciated. But please understand the ultimate aim of these activities. Ultimate aim is, number one, making each one of you capable. Number two, aligning it to industrial requirements. And number three, please do support it, the continuous activity with multiple choice questions. And the format would obviously have been shared with you, which need to be supported with a justification for the right answer. And these questions should be based on higher order thinking skills, wherein a student needs to be applying the theoretical portions which he or she is learning. So thank you, Swaroop sir, for giving me a chance to speak. Thank you, Mishra sir, for allowing me to come inside and speak, and apologies to the speaker who was speaking. I had to butt inside and speak, but that's I thought was required for me to come inside at least once in our forum. So thank you once again, and with warm regards to everybody. Jai Hind.
Thanks, sir. And now for DG sir, is on board and he is taking the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra, and very warm welcome to Colonel Venkat, who is here with us today. And I had been literally longing to have him here, and I told him both of us are partners, and we have to make sure that the ideas are articulated not only by me and my team, but also by you, so that everybody fully understands, and we'll keep on buttressing the same in the times to come. You know, as a civil engineer, hammer is something which is very, very close to my heart. Our people use hammer extensively, whether it is to tie the reinforcement, whether it is to tight or whatever. So I all of you, you're all my, and the students need hammers. And I would like you to go out and hammer all your students with the equal vigor, and try to make sure that this idea blows to their head, they understand, and we, the proud people, to tell tomorrow to everyone that look here, we are the people who produce best of the engineers anywhere in the world. And wherever the humans live, our people are there to basically be doing things. I am absolutely confident of what all of you are capable of doing. We are keeping all these pre-recorded messages, videos, training sessions on our YouTube channel. And once again, I am reiterating two things. Number one, please encourage your students. Within parentheses, I will say hammer your students to make sure that they basically participate and join the National Register of Interns. We need lots and lots of young people. Now I am sitting in Bengaluru, and I am basically back from a site visit where Nimma Metro is constructing one of the most complicated projects that one can ever think of. Larsen and Toubro, Afcons, the good construction companies are doing that. And what a sight it was. You're talking about software, you're talking about IT, you're talking about civil engineering, you're talking about mechanical engineering, you're talking about hydraulics engineering, and several other things. Everything is rolled in one so that the inhabitants of Bengaluru city are able to have an efficient system of transit everywhere for that matter. And believe you me, if you look at the kind of locale of this particular project, you will be astounded. It is crowded like crowded. It is in the old part of the city, very close to the heart of the city, and yet with great aplomb, both Nimma Metro and the organization who's executing this work, that is Larsen and Toubro, are doing it. I've been talking to them and I have already educated them about the National Register of Interns, and they are ready to welcome any number of students who might like to come and basically learn things that are happening there. Starting from geology and mining, blasting technique, to all the other branches that I explained to you, they are all being practiced here. You can see it having being done, and that is something which is going to be great learning. So those who are in the city of Bangalore, I invite them to basically get in touch with the people and make sure that you do this great learning. There are going to be videos that will be uploaded there. Educate yourself wherever you are, because this is something worth learning. So there are many fantastic projects that Indian engineers are executing today. I see no reason why we all cannot get together and break this barrier between industry and academia for that matter. After all, we are working for the same cause. With that, I really wish you luck. God bless you. And I do not wish to stand between you and your speaker, who's one of the finest that you can ever think of. And Professor Sarup will be talking to you now. And as they say, when I close, then I basically revere my country. And with a loud Jai Hind, I am closing my address here. Thank you so much. Mr. Mishra, you can re-invite Professor Sarup. He will be speaking to our faculty members who are there. Thank you so much, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. We are really very thankful to Colonel Venkat for sparing his valuable time. And now I invite Dr. Professor Niranjan Swarup, sir, to continue. Sorry for inconvenience, sir. Please continue, sir.
All right. So we are back on that. Now we concluded the academia role. So actually, I was almost at the end of the presentation. So this is a concluding remark I have to make. Waste management is an essential process for the governance of urban as well as rural areas. To prevent any epidemic and to make each city a healthy city, economically and environmentally, there is an urgent need for a well-defined strategic waste management plan and a strong implementation of the same in India. Proper waste management process could help in containing hazardous materials and situations, avoiding environmental disasters, and mitigating severe risk for local residents. Waste management aims at achieving such objectives in a gainful manner. We have discussed two primary waste categories, solid and hazardous waste. There could be different categories depending on how do you categorize them, but end of the day, everything falls under either of them. Waste management process requires disposal of such hazardous materials posing threats for the local residents and also raising the possibility of environmental disaster. Waste management system in India is in its initial stages and requires extensive upgradation to make it more effective. There is an urgent need to build upon the existing systems instead of attempting to replace them blindly with models from developed countries. Engineering waste management is the core input for such upgradation where you have the power. and together we can do that. CIDC, you, all the team members put together, a collaborative effort can do it. We can go and check up the waste management plan of the ULBs and come up with the questions or answers that look here, these points are not addressed or these points are not helpful. Academia has an extensive role in this capacity creation process, both for the local environment as well as the learners by putting them through real-time trainings. You are teaching them the textbook that will be that might be remaining in the classroom, maybe in the labs, or maybe anything which is not on the real-time basis. But when you put these boys and girls onto the sewage treatment plant or effluent treatment plant in your city, they would really understand what is happening and how the things are being done. CIDC offers assistance to all stakeholders in achieving the chartered objective of the waste management, which is an essential need of the society. So with this, I thank you very much and thanks for your patient hearing. We should open the floor for discussions, I believe. Yes, Dr. Sunita Dhotre.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for the nice session. Sir, I want to ask a question that how much will be, like, say, a student from a computer background help to solve the problem of waste management?
Can he write code?
Yes.
If he can write code, then he can do some IoT.
Yes.
If he can do some IoT and write code, then are you aware that we are talking about, I mean, if I speak about Delhi, we are talking about 15,000 kilometers of buried pipelines. Right?
Yes. Yes.
So, see, it is not one branch's business. It is a collaborative effort, as I was saying. Okay. Now there are half-life when we are talking about garbage or we are talking about hazardous waste. They do have half-lives, and you need to have some kind of evaluation, some calculations, which can come from computer. It is not possible that one branch alone can solve the problems, and that is the reason it is lying behind. We need a collaborative effort where faculty members from computer science as well as faculty members from chemical engineering, faculty members from civil engineering, mechanical engineering, all put together. The example which I gave you about this LPG import terminal. Now, this terminal had state-of-art equipment, a state-of-art system where you had everything. You had jetty, you had pipelines, you had compressors, you had DG sets, and not small ones, the huge systems. You had DG sets, you had mixers, gas mixers, you had gas pumps, you had there were fire extinguishing systems with huge power systems and huge controls. All those do come in, and everything was managed by how many people? 14 engineers, that's all. 1 million metric ton per annum plant being run 24/7, that is three shifts per day, and only 14 engineers, out of them, one was the plant manager. So 13 engineers were there who were running it. So one shift, one engineer, next shift, one engineer, next shift, one engineer. They did not need or they do not need more people. Okay, so that is what is my answer. You have to find ways and means where do you put these boys.
Yeah, definitely, sir. Thank
Sir,
you.
here I would like to add one point more, that CIDC is working on the waste management using the remote sensing technology. By using the remote sensing technology and the GIS, we are managing the waste control and the disposal, real-time management, madam. And all these are based on the software technology. After having the data from the remote sensing, we are totally working through the software and through the computer. So the total management and planning is now incorporating different softwares and computer systems. So even high-level software we are using in these days, sir. So far, this is my
Yeah.
very general response, sir. As we are using various softwares in waste management by using the remote sensing and GIS, madam. Madam.
Yeah, Dr. Bala Gopalan was saying something.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think I should also add something that we have done in our college. The
Yes,
computer
doctor.
science students had used artificial intelligence to classify waste,
Mhm.
especially for classifying waste. I don't know how good, the intricacies of it, but then computer science students do involve themselves as projects when they
Yeah.
use artificial intelligence and machine learning, etc., to do many things. Especially, I suppose the question that you raised about the mud being available. Okay, in fact, the waste materials, as you very well know, can be converted into building materials. In fact, we have done so with respect to we had the floods. I suppose you know that in Kerala we had two very devastating floods, and
Yes.
so quite a lot of waste materials were available. At that point of time, we started using the plastics as also fiber, if possible, and silk, and then also perhaps even the mud can be utilized. And we tried to build some building materials, including especially bricks. But we have a problem there because of the heating and the poisonous gases that come out of it. We are still looking for solutions, though the machinery has been built as a consequence or as an aftermath for creating these bricks. Moreover, we also, and in fact, I'm suggesting some of the things that we have done, like for instance, the waste oil in the restaurants, especially Chinese restaurants. That oil was taken and we tried to make a fuel out of it. In fact, all these processes started in the first year itself because I'm trying to do minor projects with students such that right at the beginning they become interested in doing things which are engineering in nature in the situation. Also, I think we should also add the wealth from waste, especially with respect to electricity. That is exactly what we are doing more. Like for instance, all as the fuel, which of course gives you electricity. Then again, the oil is there. So in this manner, I suppose there can be solutions, especially when you're talking about two levels of temperature. You talked about 40 degrees, minus 40. As also, is it minus 10 or plus 10?
Minus 10.
Yeah, so there's a temperature difference. A temperature difference is always responsible for creating a thermal EMF. And so that can be utilized for the pump itself. Okay, so no, these are just wild ideas. But then when you put students onto wild ideas, it will give rise to perhaps more concretized kind of information coming in. So I suppose whatever I said, I hope we all understand. The entire team understands that waste management is very important. Is the most important topic right now, because all that we have created so far, perhaps a percentage of it is still waste. So perhaps before the next creation, not just the seven R's that you talked about. In fact, I added rehabilitation, especially because people who are involved in waste or recycling waste, especially e-waste. In fact, my topic has always been e-waste. I noticed that they are they are vulnerable to so many diseases. So I started a project. Okay, of course, it has not come anywhere. Wherein we should tutor them. We should tutor those students and we should try to rehabilitate them. Okay, so I tried to, in fact, I have written a paper wherein I suggest a community living and trying to help these children, especially they are children. Okay, they are children and they are our society's, again, waste. Okay, unfortunately, they have become our society's waste. So that management is also important. You talked about social kinds of issues. This is one of the most important social issues that we have, because ultimately they'll become criminals. Okay, that's the way things go, because decency is not in their scheme of things. So I suppose, if I start talking about this, I will not be able to stop. And I think I better stop. I must
see, Dr. Sudha, my limited point is that we need to create opportunities for learning, opportunities for betterment. For an example, when we are talking about e-waste, if we can come up with some kind of solution there is a possibility that there could be certain funding available for running a proper research-based program, and you can even graduate PhDs out of it, possibly. The only thing is that we need to be confident and we need to be risk-taking people, and that is what I am, and I expect all of us to be.
Thank you. I think that's a good point on around which I hope to rally my students around.
Yes.
In fact, I'm having a meeting tomorrow wherein one topic that the students have chosen happens to be waste management. That is the first year students. So they've just entered our college, and so they want to do a project in waste management. So I'll use whatever you told us today, and moreover, I might also contact you directly if it is okay for you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll be sharing the presentation right away. So Mr. Mishra will be giving it to all of you. You can use it anywhere. All right. So
I also hope that we can call you directly. Can we call you directly?
yes, sure. Yes. You're most welcome. Do we have any further raised hand? मैं इतना अच्छा बोला कि सबको सब समझ में आ गया. Everybody understood everything. थोड़ा बहुत तो डाउट होना चाहिए ना. No doubts?
You are a good professor.
See, the bottom line is that you need to start creating questions out of this. If you start creating questions, then the things will start moving ahead. I believe Mr. Vipul Saxena is kind of unmuting or muting. Mr. Vipul? No comments. So I think, Mr. Ji, then we can call it a day today. And we may be meeting within this program or afterwards, and we can be talking anyway. You have my number, telephone number in the presentation, the earlier one as well and this one as well. So we can speak. You have my mobile there. Mr. Mishra, you can take it over, sir.
Thanks, sir. I will share your mobile number and email ID in the group of this program. And definitely they will be very benefited having association with you, sir. So if there is no any other question, may I close the session with due permission of the chair and expert? Yes, sir. Sir.
Yes, please.
Thanks a lot to everyone.